Today, I'd like to welcome you to building a thriving business. And with COVID 19, it's been an exciting time, but an interesting time. And hopefully, throughout this webinar, you'll get some tools or ideas that you can use to start driving and getting your business back up and thriving again. So, just a little bit about myself. I've been coaching for 11 years now. I'm a certified business and executive coach. Um, Truly believe in working with people to make business simple, putting in the right tools so you have the right information to make the right decisions and to make business just a whole lot simpler. Uh, there's a list of how you can contact me if you so wish. Anyway, what we're going to get into today is how to predict the future. So, how do you predict it? And everybody, well, what's going to happen this fall? What's going to happen next year? How to have a focused mind, what are some of the key things you can do to really zone in and focus on what needs to get done rather than just working towards all the noise that's around you. I want to show you a model about being above the line and as business owners, how we all should be thinking and how we should all looking. A simple business growth formula that I've used in the past and learned a number of years ago. And then certain things you can do to start making things happen. So change brings opportunity. And COVID 19 has forced business to rethink and adapt or die, right? COVID 19 really created an inflection point in the trajectories of most businesses worldwide. And what I mean by that, normally a business will do a plan for a year or 5 years or whatever. As COVID 19 comes in, it creates an inflection point. And often when I'm working with people, I talk about creating an inflection point in their business. They're not happy with what's going on in their business. You have to create some sort of an inflection point that renews and reinvigorates the business. Well, COVID 19 created that inflection point. Whether people wanted to or not, things have changed. And there's a lot of talk about going back to normal or the new normal. Nothing's ever going to be normal again. And especially in today's world, with technology the way it is and the advancements of everything, it's there's no more kind of normal anymore. You've got to be a very nimble business. You've got to be looking at the marketplace differently at all times because the marketplace, regardless of COVID 19, is changing quite rapidly. And that's mainly because of the advent of technology and how fast information is reaching people. So your clients, your customers are getting information much more faster than they've ever gotten it before. They they can research products or research who they're going to do business with very quickly. So if you create a strategic plan or a 1 year plan or a 5 year plan last fall in 2019, by March kind of 17th this year, you might as well throw that out the window. And you have to replan, refocus on what you're going to do with your company, and you have to have the courage to change. So, what would happen if we could predict the future, right? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could? Well, the real truth is we can't. Nobody knows what's going to happen this fall or next year or the year after or the year after that. Nobody has any idea. We cannot predict the future. We can maybe see it's trending in a way, but we really can't predict it. What we have to do as business owners is we have to create our own future. So it's up to us to really sit down and spend some time thinking and planning how we're going to go forward. And it's not about jumping from one thing to the next thing. It's about really taking the time to sit down and think about what this new market looks like today and what am I going to do to be able to work and succeed in this market and how do I have to change. So let's start with us, right? Because all the systems, all the things we put in place mean nothing if in our minds we don't change, right? And in our minds we don't start understanding things, right? So let's start with us, right? With you. First thing I want you to learn is don't attempt to try and do it all at once. That's kind of last century thinking. In this century, there's too much to do and you'll never have time. So you really need to know where you as a business leader or a business owner need to be focused. You need to understand that you can't do it all, right? And it's getting to the realization you can't do anything. But given the opportunity or given the right strategies, you can do anything. So you can achieve anything you wish as long as it's really in your mind. You've got clear objectives or goals, and you know exactly where to focus. So there's an old saying where your focus goes, your energy flows. Successful successful people are able to have laser focus because they are the masters of their time. They don't allow time or things to master them. They take control of their time. And later on, I'll show you a, a tactic you can use to help you take control of your time. So, in the book, uh, The One Thing by Gary Keller, so the simple truth behind extraordinary results. And in his books, he talks about uh, the one thing he has a fan or Gary Keller has a fantastic and simple philosophy to achieve extraordinary results. So the big question is, are you able to do everything? The other question he asks, should you drop everything? Do you need more discipline? Is it really about discipline? Is multitasking the answer? What if you don't have time? And that's a common thing that I hear. I'm so busy, I have no time. Oh, I've got all these things to do. So these are the big questions that are asked and answered in the book. So I'm just going to save you some time and give you the answers the book provides. So you don't have to read the book, but I'm going to take these 5 points and give you the answers. The first thing is are achieved by how narrow you make your focus. Have you ever tried chasing goats? Or maybe some of you had cats. So if you had two goats or two cats and you try to chase both of them, you'll never get any of them. Instead, you need to focus on chasing one goat at a time, or one cat at a time, or one rabbit at a time, right? Whatever it is, if you focus on the herd of things in front of you in a day, you will have had a busy day. You'll have done a lot of stuff, but have you really been able to focus and move your business forward? What's the thing that you need to focus on today that will move your business forward? What's the thing tomorrow? What's the one thing the next day? Or is there one big thing you need to focus on and every day you take a little bit out of that thing? Because let's be honest, and we all know we don't have all the time in the world just to sit and plan or do things. We have stuff happening all day long. We get caught in that big whirlwind as soon as you open a door, turn on the lights, phone starts ringing, the staff starts coming in, your friends start calling, Johnny drops by for, a coffee to talk to you. You have staff, if you have staff, they're coming in to see you with questions. How do you focus? Well, you need to find out how to focus like a predator. And when you're in that focus zone, how to make sure you don't get interrupted or you're not uh, challenged by all the distractions coming at you. So, being able to focus like a predator are what very successful people are able to do. Next thing, it's not about dropping things. It's just about learning to start to focus on one thing at a time. Because as business owners, we can't say, oh, well, I'm not going to do that anymore, or I'm not going to do that, or that doesn't matter. All of a sudden, chaos resolves around you. Now you'll never be able to focus. But it's about finding out what's that one thing you're going to work on today, or this week, or this month, and finding the time to focus on that. What's the one thing that you think, and I want you to write it down if you have a piece of paper in front of you. I want you to take just 10 seconds here and write down the one thing that you think you need to do to make your business go forward. Now, if you've written something down, that's the thing that maybe you need to block out time to focus on, right? Whether that be in your business or in your life. Discipline. People believe that successful people lead a disciplined life. That's absolutely not true. It's not about discipline. It's about the strategies that you're going to put in place and the focus. And you only need to have enough discipline to build a habit, right? Get into a habit, get into a routine or a ritual, as I call it, into doing certain things at certain times. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little later on to do it. So, one of the big things I keep hearing about is multitasking. And Stanford University and Harvard and a number of organizations, colleges have done studies on uh, multitasking. And here's basically what they come up with. Multitasking is like playing like your brain on drugs. You become less productive. You become less efficient. You are unfocused, right? So you need to just say no to multitasking, and you need to quit telling yourself that you can multitask. It's absolutely, you cannot be uh, writing an email, watching a YouTube video, and talking to a team member at the same time. Multitasking is really about simultaneous activities. What you can do is create concurrent activity, which is different than multitasking. So concurrent activity looks like where you utilize available resources. So think about your home. You know what? Because you have all this fancy equipment in your home, you could put a roast in the oven, set up a load of drying and a load of washing in your washer and dryer. You can get some dishes done, and then you can go and write that great blog that you've been meaning to write for years, right? Or write that book and spend time. So utilizing technology, you can get concurrent activity going. But each of those technologies have to run it themselves. So how are you able to focus? Okay, a lot of people say they have to have time mastery, use a system and block out your time so you can complete the tasks you need to complete. And better yet, share your calendar with everybody so everyone knows what you're focused on. So in our company, everybody has access to my calendar. They can see in this hour here that I'm doing this webinar, and they're not going to come knocking on the door and interrupting me and taking a lot of my time away, right? Uh, I'm not going to have distractions. I'm not going to be checking my email while I'm trying to do this webinar. You block out time. So the same thing comes if you want to work on something very specific. First thing is block it out in your calendar. Use your Outlook and just block it out. And that is your time. Now, there's a couple of rules around blocking out time. You should never block out more than 90 minutes at one time before taking a break. And a lot of people say, oh, that's not enough time. I'm focused. I can go a half day. I can go a long time. There's enough studies out there to show that after 90 minutes, you get diminishing return on your efforts. So 90 minutes is the max. An hour is good, 45 minutes. And usually what happens when you block out a period of time, you're working away, and about the 18-minute mark, you look up and go, what? Oh, only 18 minutes? But I assure you, if you keep at it, and all of a sudden 90 minutes goes by very, very fast. I have a ritual that I work on. I get to work very early in the morning. And the first 90 minutes of my morning is focused on the one thing or that I want to accomplish. Let's say I'm working on a new webinar. Well, I may take that over 2 weeks, but every day for the first 90 minutes every morning to get that built, I'm working on that webinar. So it's about blocking time. So I want you to think of it this way. So for earning more money, we feel that we should be more productive. Well, that's true, but it's not the whole truth. Let us understand it by the example of an iceberg, right? We all know what an iceberg looks like. So on an iceberg, we can only see the part of the iceberg which is above the water, but that's not its actual size. It's just 1/10 of the total size. Consider the success of a person to an iceberg. Productivity and profits are just 10% responsible for success, right? So people feel these two factors are the only factors that are solely responsible for success because these are the two factors that are readily visible. But the fact is, productivity is entirely dependent on priority and purpose. And that's the underlying part of the iceberg. If you don't have a purpose and you don't have set priorities, you go nowhere. Therefore, the first step for achieving ordinary results is living the life with purpose. Clarity of purpose is a must for achieving extraordinary results. And then once you understand what you're trying to achieve, the purpose, right, the objective, what's the priority do you have to put on, what priority do you have to put onto that while you're working in everyday life? Too often we get taken away from our priorities, and too often we don't have a clear purpose. What's your purpose? Well, I want to build a new webinar. That's my purpose. So I have to put priority around the time to be able to do that. It's not, I want to build a new webinar in the next 90 years. It's, I want to build a new webinar in the next week, in the next 2 weeks, whatever that is, or a new course or something like that. From my perspective, right? I want to increase my business by 10%. Well, there's a very clear purpose or objective, if you want to call it that. What priority are you putting to that? Well, I got to answer every phone call. Well, I got to deal with every person as they come knocking on the door. Well, I better check my emails and deal with all that all the time, all day long. Right? We have control how we structure ourselves and our lives. So you need to be clear about what you want in life and why you want to do it. Once your purpose is clear or your objective, it helps you to make decisions quickly and work more productively. The next step is to prioritize properly. Your one thing. What's the activity that has to be done to fulfill that purpose or objective? That should be given the highest priority and should be done as the first activity of the day. So the author tells us to focus a minimum of 4 hours per day on the one thing. Well, you know what? That's nice if you have total control and your business runs like a well-oiled machine. I say you need to focus a minimum of at least 90 minutes a day. And if you have to do 2 45-minute blocks of time, that's fine. But at least 90 minutes a day. Well, you will be farther ahead than if you just walk in the door and let the day control you rather than you control your time during the day. So If it's to be, it is up to me. It's up to you to take the lead and lead your business, career, or life in this new pandemic environment and in this new world of technology. Now, what I'm going to do, I want to show you the steps to taking ownership. And I learned this model when I went through coach training. And on the slide, I'm going to walk you through what really resonated with me. So I actually have a copy of this hanging on in my office to always remind me of how I need to be thinking and acting. And it just keeps me grounded to where the reality is that I need to be focused to grow my business and also to lead a quality life. So it's called Above and Below the Line. And if any of you have met with me, I may have shown it to you, you may have seen it. But each day, if you stay in the whirlwind and live below the line, you'll never achieve the possible success you deserve. So the first part below the line is denial, where we think everything's okay. Well, it's always been done this way. My industry is that's the way it is in my industry. Oh, it's the economy, it's the slump, it's COVID-19, right? Once we get out of denial, we start making excuses, right? It's the government policies. What I hear a lot, I can't find good people. I have no time. I'm too busy. Of course, today it's all COVID related, right? COVID-19. Then the next level that we as humans tend to go to is blame. My team sucks. It's the economy. Nobody wants to work. Young people are not what I was like, right? Thank God. No. And again, COVID-19, right? When you sit in this zone of this blame, excuses, and denial, right, you're victimizing yourself. And if you're kind of articulating this within your own group of friends or businesses or everything else, is very negative. And this sucks the lifeblood energy right out of you, right? And because you're always coming up for reasons. And all you're doing is just in this pit of despair, as I call it, the slump. To get above the line, once you get past blame, now you can start taking responsibility for where your business actually is. Yes, COVID-19 is there. Yes, that's not going to change. But what are you doing differently, or what have you been working on differently since the advent of COVID, other than wearing a mask and doing all the COVID related things? But from a business or life responsibility, how have you adjusted to this influence in the marketplace? How have you adjusted to this influence in your life? Right? You have to take responsibility for that. In your business, you have to take responsibility for the profitability of your business. When I work with business owners, I always say to them, you are responsible for your profitability, not the market, not the marketplace, not the government, nobody. You know what the playing field looks like. You're responsible for the score that's going to go on the board. It's your responsibility. Who's responsible for the team you hired? If you have a team that sucks, well, you hired them, right? Take responsibility for that. The decisions you made, you have to take responsibility. If things aren't the way you want, you have to take responsibility for that. If you have no time or you're too busy, you have to take responsibility because you are the manager of your time. Nobody can tell you what to do with your time. Absolutely nobody. It's an actual choice you make whether you're going to put your time here or over there. So nobody can blame somebody else for their time. We choose what we're going to do each and every second of the day. Nobody's telling us what to do. We choose. Now, next is accountability. You have to hold yourself accountable for learning, growing your team, hours a week working on the business, right? Or hours a week working on your life. You have to take responsibility for what you're doing with your time. You have to take in business, you have to take responsibility for knowing your numbers and making decisions based on the math rather than the emotion. What are the numbers telling you, right? And I know a lot of people are numbers people. I kind of am a kind of numbers psycho, but the numbers tell you the true story, right? It's the science behind the business. And don't we hear a lot about science these days, right? And last of all, you have to take ownership. Ownership. Are you doing your regular planning? Are you doing 90-day planning? Are you going into, there's a number of people that offer 90-day planning. We'll be offering it in September again, right? Are you attending a planning session, right? Uh, you have to take ownership for communication with your team, ownership for knowledge and growth, right? Ownership for decision making based on numbers and planning, ownership for delegation to your team rather than just you can't abdicate it over, and ownership for creating a clear communicative vision of what you want to achieve so your team truly understands what you're trying to achieve. Last year when I did strategic planning with company last fall, and since last fall, what I do now is I actually provide the company a PowerPoint presentation so they can present that strategic plan to their team. What I found out prior to last fall was most business owners are coming in for strategic planning and then never telling their team. Your team doesn't know, or your family doesn't know what you're thinking. Nobody can read your mind. So you have to clearly communicate the objective you're trying to achieve or the purpose that you're working on. You have to communicate that. So clear communicated vision or objectives are important. When you do that, you become a victor. You're spending your energy and your time on things that will move the ball forward, that will actually get results, right? And you become the victor. And I can assure you, any Olympic gold medalist are living above the line. They have to. They can't blame their coach because they're overweight. They can't blame their coach because they're slow. They have to take responsibility for that. And what are the things they're going to have to put in place to become faster, leaner, blah, 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 right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now that we've focused on you, it's time to focus on growing the business, right? I want to show you a formula that I've learned, embraced, and employed that massively grows the bottom line. And this formula is called the 5 ways. And I learned this while I was an action coach. And actually, I learned this before I became an action coach from an action coach. And when I got hired, headhunted by a company here in Grand Prairie, I actually wrote this formula on a whiteboard and put it up in my office wall. And it sat there for 3 years. We were able to take the business because this formula that I'm going to show you was the focus from 2.9 million to 9.4 million in 3 years. And it was simply looking at this formula and then figuring out strategies and tactics for each part of the formula. And we massively grew the revenue and we massively grew the profitability. Not only as the revenue grew, that the profitability grew, we actually grew the percent of profit per dollar of revenue as well. So, 5 proven ways to increase your profits. So here's the formula: number of leads times conversion rates will equal your customers times the number of transactions times the average dollar sales will equal your revenue times profit margin equals profit. So let's just quickly throw some numbers at it. And if we throw these numbers at it, we get 4,000 leads, we convert about 25%. So we'd have 1,000 customers. They bought from us twice a year at an average dollar sale of $100. Our revenue per year would be $200,000. And if we had a 25% margin, we'd have $50,000. So what would happen if we just increased everything by 10%, right? So we increase everything by 10%. Now all of a sudden we've got $30,000 more of pure profit. And profit is what we're after. Revenue is cool, but if there's no profit in the revenue, you're just wasting your time. Profit is king because that's dollars in the bank, right? And that's what allows you to invest in and grow your business or invest in other businesses. But it's profit that allows you to grow wealth, right? So if you look at this formula, it's a 61% increase in profit by just simply increasing everything by 10%. So let's say there's a sales team out there, or you have salespeople, and they call in 8 customers a day, right? So if they call in 8 customers, that's 40 customers a week. What if they called on 44 customers a week, right? What if they improve their conversion rate of what they're trying to sell? Okay. What if they could increase the number of times people buy or the number of products? What if they could increase the average dollar of sale because they're moving more products into that customer? And as we call in the sales field, increasing the share of wallet, right? Of what that customer is buying from you. And what if you could improve your profit margin by really looking at your expense bucket or at your cost of goods? That will help drive that. Wow. And usually I find in businesses, these are very doable things. So this company I was quickly talking about, from the 2.5 to the 9.4 million, what I first worked on was really looking at the average dollar sale. I looked at the profit margin first. And one of the things that I found was our profit margin was kind of low, and I kept thinking, geez, we're supposed to have a 30 for profit margin, and we're sitting around 24% in profit margin. So I simply went to the staff and asked them, how do you calculate margin? And they said, oh, we mark it up by 30%, so we have 30% margin. No, you have a 30% markup, which really gives you, I think, a 26 point something margin. They had the formula wrong. What they were doing was taking their product and timesing it by 1.30 and then selling it. So the cost of the product times 1.30, and that gave them their sell price. Well, no, what they should have been doing is taking their cost, dividing it by 0.70, and that would give you your true price. Just by fixing that formula, all of a sudden we increased our profits. And we increased our profits in the area of 6%, not 2.5. Or sorry, by 10%, 2.5. Very quickly. Then the next thing I started looking at was the average dollar sale. And for that, we started really looking at when a customer came in, or we were talking to customers, we just started talking about what we might have in our sales flyers. And in that company, we'd have about 13 flyers a month. We just started talking about specials. We just started talking about doing bookings for product. Let's say it was the fall or breakup or whatever. We put a bundle of products together and do bookings, right? Number of transactions. We just made them aware of all the things we sold, and then they would come in more often. The phone would ring more, right? And the last thing I focused on was the number of leads, because usually that costs a lot of money and time. Lead generation is expensive, whether you spend it in time or whether you spend it in marketing. That's the toughest one. So the first thing I look at is work from the bottom up. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Doesn't, there's, you'll get a chance to ask me a whole lot more. Okay, is that really possible to do in my business? You can't do everything, but you can do anything. So what you have to do is start thinking like a true entrepreneur. You have to start thinking, what is my plan? What am I going to focus on? Let's say in that 5 ways, what's the one thing I'm going to focus on and get my team so they are the best in the marketplace at? Or what am I personally going to focus on so I become the best in the marketplace? Second, you have to change the way you're doing things now. What you're doing now got you to where you are. If you continue to do what you're doing, will it get you to where you want to be? Nah, I suspect not, right? So you have to change, right? You will keep getting what you like. If you keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you've always got. And the other thing you have to do is hold on to your dreams or your objectives or your purpose because they are real and possible. You have to believe that. You truly have to believe that they're real and possible. Anybody can create a massive company. And if the things you're doing today aren't really working, or your team's not working the way it should be working, then things need to be changed. It's that simple. What are the things you're going to focus on? And those 5 ways are a good way to start looking at things. What are the things you need? What's the one thing you need to work on? If you find your margins are really low, look at your pricing and look to make sure that you're actually calculating margin properly. Okay. So, a couple of things to help you out. A few things actually. So, first of all, I've given you in a nutshell how to manage your time. Actually, in conjunction with continuing education at GPRC, um, I run a 2-day course. Uh, the next one is scheduled for October 14th and 15th. The spring course was held online. A little bit different. I do like being in the classroom a little bit more, but we did hold it on Zoom over 2 days, and nobody fell asleep. Nobody didn't show up. It was a little bit different. What was different was the amount of interaction. I've changed some things up, so hopefully we can fix that if we have to do it online again, and I suspect we will. But you can go to GPRC Continuing Education, and there's a link there to sign up. And I think they charge $350 or something for that. Not too sure. Um, but it also goes towards if you're looking for a Blue Seal certificate in entrepreneurship, it's one of the elective courses in the entrepreneurship program. After this, I will actually be sending you an email and I'll have a link if you so want to sign up for that. The next thing that working with the Chamber of Commerce, we're looking at putting on a 12-week online leadership development process. And it's a process, it's not a program, it's not a course. It's actually a process that we go through. Those, I'm hoping early next month, that information will be out through the chamber and through ourselves. You can watch our Facebook page and website for that information. But that course will be out there. Now, normally I run these group courses at about $2,000. We dropped the price down to 400, I think, and $97 for the 12 weeks. So great deal if you want to move ahead on that. So now there's 2 directions you can go. The first is I'm going to improve my business on my own. That's the first thing you can do. Second thing you can do, I'm interested in getting real results. So what's next? And this is next, a complimentary Zoom call. There's a lot of stuff in here, and everybody's situation is a little bit unique. So I'm offering a complimentary Zoom call up to an hour to discuss your particular situation. So that's what's next. Now, the one thing I'm going to tell you is I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm not on that Zoom call, not trying to sell you a coaching program. If you ask, I'll make you aware of what's available. Uh, and you can decide then if you want to work with me or not. This call is not a sales call, though. I really want to focus in on you. We need to recover in Grand Prairie. We need to get our market going. We need to get the energy back into the city. And as business leaders and community leaders, it's up to us to do that. So it's a total complimentary call. Even if we've met before, even if we've worked together before, doesn't matter. This is starting new. I'll be sending you the link in an email right after this for that complimentary Zoom call. So I want to leave you with this. Lindsey Vonn, one of the greatest female racers of all time. Fortunately, she's American. Wish she was Canadian, but nonetheless, what a hero. And here's what Lindsey says about how she does it. She has a routine. She has a team of people helping her, not just working for her, but helping her. Right? She has developed winning habits. Right? She believes in herself, and she has balance in her life because of that. Right? Another guy, Tiger Woods, and I guess those two dated at one time. That's not why I picked these guys. But no matter how tough you think you are, and I believe how smart people are, nobody can do anything on their own, right? You need people around you. And then I want to show you something different. And this is one of the things that I think people really need to start realizing in this century, how to make things change, right? So the difference is the top of the iceberg, what you learn for free by going to webinars or attending webinars or going to conferences. What the ability to get real results is, just the pit of it. You'll get some ideas, and out of that, a week later, you'll have forgotten some. And there's a number of studies that show after a period of about 6 weeks, you've absolutely almost forgotten everything you've learned. What? Right? Next step is what you're going to learn by investing in a course, right? And the last part is where you have 10 times the effect is what you invest in mentoring by someone who's already the experience of success you're seeking, someone who has the knowledge, tools, and resources that you need. And it could be somebody who's been successful in your business, it could be a coach, it could be any type of mentor. Actually having somebody there. Sometimes it's just to talk to, right? That's where the real traction comes. So with that, I want to say thank you. So I'm going to send out the link to the college course if you want it. It's a 2-day course, but I'll send you out also the link to the free coaching call. And one of the things I want you to do when you get that email is actually at that time, do it right then and there, book your time with me. And then you'll go through the booking and you'll have a link, calendar link for that call at the time you choose and book in my calendar. So thank you very much.